Hey YouTube, I wanted to do a quick review on my bike and just talk about my experience as a new rider with this bike. I see a lot of questions out there on the web regarding first bike purchases, and since this was my first bike purchase, I thought it might help some people out there with some questions. But first of all, the bike, this is a 2015 Kawasaki Vulcan S. I bought it brand new off the showroom floor last year in 2016. They were trying to get rid of it since it was their last old floor model. So I got a really good deal. It is 650 cc's in a parallel twin. It's the same engine that's in the Versus. It's the same engine that's in the Ninja 650, although it's detuned a little bit, or it's tuned differently to give it a little bit more low end torque. This is actually the only color that they had, but I'm glad I got it because actually it's grown on me. I think it looks great. So let me just do a walk around. Let me start it up. And I'm close to 700, still in the break-in period, since they recommend breaking it in up unto 1,000 miles. It has the ergo fit. I'm about 5'7", 160 pounds, and I have everything set up medium reach, handlebars, foot pegs, medium seat, and it's very, very comfortable. I test rode this bike configured with the extended reach, and I was still able to manage it, although I wasn't as comfortable with the foot pegs being so far out. And I went ahead and put on the passenger seat and the passenger foot pegs. It's a great bike. Let's take it for a spin. So like I said, I'm a new rider. I got my license. I took the class about 2 years ago. And in the class, the motorcycle safety class, all you ride are little 250s. And those were very easy to handle. I was very comfortable on those little bikes. But at the end of the class, the instructor looked at all of us and said, no matter what you read on the internet, I called it the interwet, the internet, do not get a 250. I wanted to hear what this instructor had to say, and so he explained that 250s were great to learn on, but not really practical in the real world. And I have friends that still ride 250s, and they love that as commuting bikes. They get great gas mileage. I myself was planning on getting a Ninja 250, but the instructor said in the real world, 250 is not very practical. Especially when it comes to riding on the highway. Just if you need to pass, if you need to get out of a tight spot. And his primary reason was just comfort. Given that the 250s are really buzzy, you got to rev them up really high. After a while, that might get super annoying. A couple of the people who I was riding with in the class, they all started looking at shadows, and I said, oh, that's probably a good starter bike, 500 or 600, maybe even up to 750. And so I started test riding those a whole bunch, and I really didn't know anything different, just because I had never ridden anything else but that 250 in the class. And I was set on getting a Shadow, so I end up finding a used Shadow at a dealership, and I go in to take a test ride, and this bike is there. And I had read a little bit about it and thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for me to give it a test ride. So I took this bike out and I immediately fell in love with it. I immediately felt super comfortable and had no issue with handling, with managing, with the throttle, with the brakes. I mean, everything is just really set up for both a new rider and an experienced rider. It really is very compliant in terms of drivability, manageability. It's very easy to turn. Its power is very predictable. It's very light as well. And so obviously the very first time I got on it, I was like, oh, this is a big bike. And the first time I started going a little bit fast, I was like, oh, this is a fast bike. But now I'm no way bored. I mean, I haven't even taken this thing up past 6K per the break-in instructions. And it is plenty of bike for me. It's a lot of fun. And I don't think I'll ever get rid of this bike just because of the pure enjoyment that this bike is to ride. It's so comfortable. Yeah, my feet are forward, which can be awkward, but I don't know any different. You know, ignorance is bliss for me. I've never actually been on a tour or a super sport or a sport bike for that matter. And so, yeah, it sometimes feels like you're hanging on by your hands and your toes when you're really accelerating, and that's kind of odd, but this bike is extremely stable, even going fast on the highway. It has ABS, which I've read about pros and cons. Get ABS, don't get ABS. Learn how to bike brakes before you get ABS. This was the bike that was available, so it had ABS, and so whatever, you know, that I wasn't going to not get the bike because it had ABS. And so it's been a real pleasure. So for me, I'm very happy that I got this bike because it was so easy to learn on. It's been very comfortable and very enjoyable. I'm not scared of the bike at all. I feel like I can really manage this bike really well, and I feel like it will last me a lifetime. I feel like I'm not gonna get bored of this bike just because of how comfortable it is and how fun it is to ride. Now granted, I've never been on a sport bike. I've never been on a super sport bike, and I might one day ride those and be like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I've been looking for all my life. I can't say that, but for me, and to answer the question, is this a good beginner bike, I say yes. It's a perfect bike to start on. It's so narrow, and I'm not a big guy. Like I said, I'm 5'7", 150, 160, and it's very manageable. It feels light because I think the center of gravity is so low, and that helps, I think, as a new rider, being able to put your feet down and be completely flat-footed in all situations, especially at slow speed maneuvers and narrow turns is really comforting. Juicy mandarins. And so, get this bike. If you're wondering about it and you're a new rider, I don't think you would have any problems with this bike as your first bike. Well, living here where I do, I'm up in Northern California. There's not a lot of traffic, and there are a ton of back roads, and that's where I do most of my riding. I come out, I hop on the bike, and I go for long leisurely rides up in the mountains, and it is just so enjoyable. My expectations have been blown away, is all that I can say. Yeah, it looks funny. Some people are like, oh, that book looks hideous because the headlight is not really round, it's kind of teardrop shape, and it is lime green, and it's like a cruiser slash space ship looking type of bike, but I actually love it. I like it a lot. I think Kawasaki got it dead on with this bike. And I don't even think they're trying to reach the newbie rider market. But I definitely feel like this is something that new riders should look into.